Hi, I'm Tommy Vincent, your host of Stay a While podcast, recording live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 60. This season, we have some phenomenal guests that are joining us at the Stay a While table. So pull up a seat, get comfortable, and come and stay a while. Tune into our conversations to receive nourishment for your mind, your body, and your soul. Hi, this is your personal opportunity to come, take a seat, and stay a while. I am Tommy Vincent, your host, recording live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 60, Stay a While podcast. And today I have joining me Mizpah Brown-Rich, co-founder and CEO of Joshua's Gift. I am honored to welcome her to Stay a While. Mizpah is the founder and CEO of Joshua's Gift, inspired by her son Joshua, and focused on creating inclusive, supportive communities for individuals with autism and developmental disabilities. Through programs like Code Joshua, she's helping first responders engage with greater understanding, dignity, and compassion. Mizpah's work reflects the essential ingredients needed for real impact, love, empathy, and action. And a belief that when we make space at the table for everyone, communities are stronger. This year, her leadership was recognized as a L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth honoree. Mizpah, thank you for coming to Stay a While with us.
Thank you for having me, Tommy.
It is such an honor. You and I had an opportunity to do some work together here in Oakland.
Yes.
Well, we're not in Oakland right now, but we were in Oakland
Yes.
together
Yes.
at Burke-Halter Elementary School,
Mhm.
where you came in and you brought Joshua's Gift into that school community.
Yes. And that was an amazing experience. So thank you so much for actually providing me that opportunity to meet some of the most incredible kids on this earth. Tommy, that is my happy place. When I am in an element or an environment where I get to interact with not just the kiddos, but the families, the parents, whose journey I'm so familiar with. And to be able to provide the kind of support that we were able to do, which is a sensory space, right? That's their safe haven. And I'll tell you a story of an adorable little, I think he couldn't have been more than 5 years old. So he was engaged in all of the activities that were going on outdoors. And so he walks into the room and he says to me, he goes, "Oh my gosh, this is where I belong. This is where I needed to be." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There was so much stuff going on outside. I needed a place to regulate myself. And so I came in here." And he said, "So I'll just need a few moments and then I'll be ready to go back out." I'm like, 5 years old, you know?
What does
Some
he know
adults
about regulating?
Right. I know. I'm like, wait, some adults can't articulate themselves that way. So I was so drawn to him and was just really observing how he went about doing it. And he just wanted to get into, we also had a mushroom tent. So he went into the mushroom tent and he was just quietly in there, just having his own moment. And we gave him that space. But the sensory room served so many students that were coming in. So thank you so much again for thinking about it, for inviting us, because the parents that came and we got to talk about their journey. I had this mom who has 2 kids on the spectrum. And I know what it's like raising 1 kid on the spectrum. And my heart went out to her. I'm like, 2. How are you doing it? You know, what can we do in the future moving forward to help you? We love also helping parents by giving them a respite break, because that doesn't come easy at all. And we often talk about, my husband and I often talk about, okay, there's so much more that we feel that we can do for this community. The diagnosis, Tommy, is just staggering. It's 26. Yeah, it's 21 and 26 now, kids that are being diagnosed with autism. So it's rampant. And a lot of these families are just getting the diagnosis, don't know how to navigate their way through the diagnosis. That's where we come in. We provide all of the resources necessary for them to learn about it, but also to reshare our lived experiences so that mothers and fathers know that they're not on this journey alone. And one of the biggest challenges for our community is actually kids getting them out in public on social excursions, which is what we do. I'll give you a quick story about my son. I recall we wanted to take him to his first sporting event. And we were we were trying to take him to the Warriors game. It was Autism Acceptance Night. And I remember this vividly. He couldn't go. It was too overwhelming for him. And so I remember leaving the house with his little sister and my husband and I, and he was staying back with a family member. And as we were getting in the car, I looked back and I could see his face up against the window looking as if, why are you guys leaving me behind? And then I just started crying. And my husband's like, honey, we're doing this for him though. Just remember we're doing this for him and one day he will be able to go. So fast forward, last year was his first NBA game where he was able to navigate his way through the crowd. And we didn't know if how long he would stay, but he wound up staying through almost the entire 4 quarters. And I have to send a shout out, if it's okay, to Dre Marbury.
Oh, absolutely.
Dre put in a sensory space.
At the stadium?
At the stadium, yes, at Chase Center. And that's the first place Joshua was able to go to. And he spent most of his time in the sensory space. But you can't imagine what that does for families, because it was all inclusive. And that's what the Warriors has been doing for us, actually. And there were so many families now that are able to go and feel safe, that there's a place where their loved ones can go and regulate themselves and then go back out into the game, or if they want to leave or if they want to stay. And so, so that's basically what happened also for the kids this past week, and again, it was just an amazing experience and so gratifying.
Yeah, it was such, for us, the ability to even have that implemented into the space where we knew there was a high population at the school of students who had autism. So it was really a blessing that you were able to be present. I often hear mothers specifically talking about the need for those types of spaces in churches.
Yes.
Because they're not able to go into fellowship the way that they would like to because of, it overstimulates their children and they're not able to sit there for that entire time. So when you brought that up about the stadium, that's what that immediately brought to mind, that when we're thinking about creating inclusive spaces, it's not just about what people look like, the color of their skin and all the, we have these identifiers that we're looking at, but when we're talking about inclusivity, that's important to take into account as well. Creating environments where we're saying there's something here for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting you brought up church as well, right? Because when we first got the diagnosis, Josh was 2.5 years old, and Carrie and I were faithfully going to church. And when we had him, it got to a point where he couldn't tolerate the noise at all anymore. And so my husband and I would take turns. So he would go outside and take him out into the parking lot, and I would sit in the sanctuary, and vice versa, and then there were times when I went alone, or he would go alone to church because they didn't have a sensory space. And we didn't want to miss the service, and so fast forward now, we're at a church that actually is incredibly inclusive. The pastor has a son on the spectrum as well, and can empathize with so many of the, his church members that have kids on the autism spectrum. And they actually have a special needs ministry.
Oh, wow.
And so we were able to take Joshua. Yeah, it's been an amazing experience for us. And so, yeah. So now our biggest initiative that I wanted to share with you right now through the foundation is we train first responders on how to recognize and identify the characteristics and behaviors of individuals on the autism spectrum. So when there's an encounter, they recognize those behaviors and know how to proceed with caution, with compassion, with dignity, with respect, and to also avoid any traumatization or loss of life. And so that's where Code Joshua came in. And so Code Joshua is basically an emergency alert system. And last year we launched it in last year, April, which was Autism Acceptance Month.
Okay.
And we did not expect the overwhelming response that we got. And we launched it in our city that we reside in Fremont. We partner with Fremont Police Department, and we developed this registry app. And basically what it does is it allowed families voluntarily to go into the database, register their loved ones, give a complete profile of them, including the characteristics. And then when law enforcement gets like a 911 Code Joshua call, they immediately know that they're going they're responding to a call with someone that's on the autism spectrum.
So as a just for clarifying, so through the app, the parent would actually pursue assistance through the app.
Yes.
So they're not calling directly to 911 or...
No, they will call directly to 911. So prior to that, they go into the database and they enter all of the information that is kind of like having a digital identification.
Okay.
Right.
So it'll come up in the system for the police officer.
System.
Wow.
Yes. So
Okay.
say, for example, Tommy Lee, right, is registered in the system, and mom calls and says, "This is a Code Joshua call. My son eloped from the house and I don't know where he is." Dispatch will ask, "Is he registered with Code Joshua?" Yes, he is. They go into the system and his complete profile comes up, his height, his weight. She will let them know in real time what he's wearing. What are the characteristics? So for example, in my son's case, if you as law enforcement come in with the sirens and the lights, he's inclined to run away. And so that could be dangerous.
Absolutely.
For him.
Absolutely.
You know, as an African-American young man too. And so, so all these precautions and all of this we took into consideration when we were developing the app and partnering and collaborating with law enforcement officers. And so they know that, okay, he may run away. He's not a threat to us. So let's let him run and we'll be patient about it. And so, or a person might drop to the ground, you know, and give you dead weight, or they may reach for a shiny object on you because they're attracted to shiny objects, and that could be your badge or your gun.
Yes.
And so, parallel to the registry, right? They also retrain them. So we go into the agencies and we bring in adults on the autism spectrum with lived experiences who have had encounters with law enforcement or not. Law enforcement actually gets to interact with them. And what we love about our trainings is you don't know what to expect when our loved ones come in. My son, he's going to bum rush in the room and he's going to run up and down. He's so rambunctious. and then he'll find what he does. He's kind of like, he walks into the room and I think of the Terminator, you know, where he just scans the entire room to see where the nearest exit is to escape. and it's funny because law enforcement they wouldn't expect that, right? But they are seeing what could happen in real time.
Yeah.
And it's educating them and it's informing them. And it's also putting more tools into their toolbox so that they know how to respond in crisis situations with compassion. And also to know how to de-escalate a situation without traumatization, like I said, or loss of life. And so so that's what we've been doing. And over the last 2.5 years, we've trained almost 4,000 officers throughout the Bay Area and counting. And we look forward to continue doing that. And the goal is to make it national. And so, and it's just been so well received. And what we found out too, we're learning from the officers as well. And we found that we're providing a platform for them as well. Because there's a lot of officers that have kids on the spectrum. But you will never hear much of that kind of a dialogue.
There could be officers that are on the spectrum.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I recall vividly, we do have a wonderful partnership with the Warriors, and
With
we
who?
do with the Golden State Warriors.
Mhm.
And we did a training at Chase Center. And Draymond partnered with us to do that training as well. And his best friend, because his best friend is on the spectrum, that went to college with him.
Okay.
And at that training, we had officers from San Francisco. We trained San Francisco PD, firefighters, and EMTs. And in fact, the young lady that you saw here, she's one of the captains at San Francisco Fire Department.
Okay.
And I hadn't seen her in a couple of years.
And she's
But-
done the training.
She's not only done the training, she's actually one of the persons in our video that was launched about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And she talked about Coach Joshua and how invaluable the training has been for them. She also has a niece on the spectrum. So again, a lot of these first responders actually have families or relatives, and everyone I talk to, someone knows someone that knows someone that is on the spectrum. And so we just hope to continue to really break down barriers, because more often than not, you find the community at large is afraid to have encounters with law enforcement. And there was a survey that we did to collect some data in Fremont. And the survey was basically around whether families, if their loved one was lost or eloped, right, would they call 911 right away? 80% said no. They would rather canvass the area and look for their loved ones themselves, because they feel like their loved ones are going to come back to them alive versus not. And so we have been trying and making every effort to build that community relationship. And I feel like we've been successful in doing so, especially in our community, where we create so many opportunities for the families to engage with law enforcement. And we've been pretty successful, and hopefully we can continue to do that throughout all of Northern California and then throughout the state. Mm-hmm. When we launched Code Joshua in April, and went international, we got 2.2 million hits. And we got people and families calling us globally, right? From outside of the country as well. Where can we get our hands on this, and how can we get the registry with our agencies? And so we just hope to again continue, because we want to see those numbers really go down or disappear completely when it comes to someone on the spectrum losing their lives at the hands of law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Joshua's gift is something that is your son.
Yeah.
Right. He's the inspiration behind it all.
Absolutely.
At what point did you say, in addition to us caring for our son the way he deserves to be cared for, we need to make sure that this resource is available to other people? How did that happen?
It was my first encounter with law enforcement. And it was a scary experience for me. And I was actually, so I was rushing at the store, and he was with me, Joshua was with me, and I was trying to get him in the car. And this was the first time this ever happened to me, where I accidentally left my wallet in the cart. A good Samaritan actually found it and turned it into the police. So I got a call that it was at the station. And this was, by the way, not in my city. And so I immediately went to the station with Joshua. And while we were at the station and waiting for me to get my wallet, I went up to the window. And the officer that was there at the time was able to help me and told me to just wait a moment, and he would have his colleague bring it from back where they were holding it. And so that officer, as he was coming towards the window, my son Joshua, with his rambunctious self, just run to give me a big hug. And the officer stood back and immediately went for his gun. And so I then took Joshua and just put him behind me.
Yes.
And I just looked at him like in shock, because for starters, he's on the other side of the glass. I can't even get there, nor can Joshua. It's a bulletproof window.
Right.
So I was just in shock that he did that.
Mhm.
And so the first officer that met me at the window actually came up and interceded. And I don't know what he was saying to his colleague, but then he just gestured by saying, "Now you may go forward," and he stepped aside to let him proceed to come to the window to me. And I took advantage of that opportunity to ask him, why did you do that?
Right.
And he said, I don't know. And I said, I think you do. And I said, have you had any training? Are you familiar with autism? And he said, no, I'm not. And I said, so you've never had any autism training? And he said, no, I haven't. And I said, well, you need some.
How
And
old was
then-
Joshua at this time?
Joshua was like he's 24 now. And this happened about 5 years ago. Yes. 19.
Okay.
Yeah, he was about 19 years old.
Okay.
And so that was really the genesis of us wanting to do this for other families as well, and to make sure that we created this, app and this emergency alert system to really raise awareness, but to also train law enforcement officers, but also for other families to feel safe. So that's why. And when we started Joshua's gift was, which was, yes, affectionately named after Joshua. We know how hard it is for families to want to go out in public.
Yeah.
Our kids' behaviors and sensory system is unpredictable. So, but I was always one of those moms who was like, okay, buddy, we're going today. I'm like, I know it's going to be a challenge for you, but mom's got you. And I remember bringing him, he was about 5 years old, bringing him here to the city to take, to do some shopping. And I had my daughter at that time too. My daughter was 3 years old. She was in my arm, and we go into this mall, which was really busy, and he was able to tolerate it for longer than I expected. But as we were winding down and getting ready to leave, he just had a complete meltdown. He threw himself to the ground and he was screaming at the top of his voice. And I immediately knew I had to go into the zone, and I had to, help him regulate himself and help him calm down. A good friend was there with me, so she was able to hold my daughter so I could focus on him. And Tommy, I got down on the ground and I knew what it would take, because he responds well when I sing to him.
Okay.
And I knew that was going to be a calming mechanism.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, I was able to do that gently and was able to lift him up and knew he was ready to go. When I stood up, there was easily over 100 people standing around watching. I wasn't even aware of them being there because, again, I was focused on him.
Yes.
And getting him safely out. And I was just really shocked because you could hear the gestures, you could hear the whispers, and you could, as parents, sometimes you're subjected to the scrutiny because it's interpreted as, oh, the child is misbehaving. I've heard so many times, get your kid under control, or this mom needs to take this kid someplace else or this mom needs to discipline this kid. And that's because of just the lack of understanding.
Yes.
Being completely oblivious. I don't expect any and everyone to know what autism is. But once you do become aware of it, it makes it a little more, it makes us a little more appreciative. And so that's what a lot of families encounter. And that's just the beginning of a list of so many things that we do contend with. People don't, I say this to our families all the time, especially to the moms. We are so sleep deprived. Joshua would get up at 2:00 in the morning, and no one will know that I've been up since 2:00 with him, or Dad's been up since 2:00 with him.
Yeah.
And we do what we have to do. You know, we go about our day. I go to work, I come back, and my best friend said to me one day, she goes, "Here's why I worry about you sometimes." She goes, "Because the self-care, is restricted." And she said, for me, when I come home from work, my refuge is my home.
Yes.
And I could unwind. When you come home from work, you can't unwind. You take it up another level because you have to meet Joshua's needs. And every parent that is living with a child on the spectrum, that's what their lives are like, you know? And then I'm blessed that I have an amazing husband that is an incredible father, and we could share responsibilities. Told me 80% of marriages, these are statistics, 80% of marriages raising a kid on the spectrum.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of single moms as well that we support. This month, we're doing through Joshua's Gift, we're doing a respite night out. And so what that means is moms and dads who haven't been on a date in God knows how long, they get to take that date.
So will you and your husband be able to participate as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice.
We're partnering with a wonderful foundation here who is providing the care providers. So they get to bring their adult kids, and they get to go out to dinner, or they can go back home and sleep.
Yeah.
If they want to, or go to a movie. Several of the parents that were at the school that came to the sensory room, I asked them, I said, when was the last time you guys went out on a date? And they were like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We honestly can't tell you. Carrie and I had our first vacation in 24 years last year because we can't leave Joshua with just anyone.
Yes.
It's a trust factor as well, right? Especially for families who have kids that are non-speaking. They can't tell you if someone does something to them, right? And so, we got to go on vacation, and I got to go home and visit my family in the Bahamas that I hadn't seen in about 6 years. Had an amazing time. And Carrie was like, why don't we do this more often? Because.
Have you ever, since one of the things that soothes Joshua is you singing, have you ever recorded yourself so that way he has like a tape recorder or something when he can help self-regulate himself by pushing play and hearing your voice?
No, that's a great idea. And I've never thought about that. I'm so used to doing it live with him because I'm the goofy one in the family.
Yeah.
And I push the envelope with him because he has so much potential.
Yeah.
And so I'm the one he loves music. And so I'm the one that's always cranking up the music and singing with him. And I get him. And here's another thing that is amazing is I get him to use his language through singing.
Okay.
And we're able to build on his language and to help him continue to be able to express himself. And if it's through music, we'll take it, But that's a great idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, is to record myself and to play it and just to get a reaction out of it.
Yeah, because I was thinking about like the parents and how your girlfriend talked about your ability to come home and have even a place where you can do some self-regulation, but you go in and you know that you have to be aware and very conscious of Joshua.
Yeah.
And so if parents have things that they know that their children respond well to, like creating even how you created that space, the sensory room at the school, having that type of space in your home where if you need to press play and there's like a half an hour of you singing that causes Joshua just to
call,
then you have 30 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Yes.
I am definitely going to record. We're finding out more resources that we're sharing with parents as well. And we have, we tried it since he loves music so much. We thought, let's put him in music lessons, but it's going to be challenging. Let's see if we can find someone that is extremely flexible and accommodating, and found this young man. He and his wife has a music school, and found them through our regional center. And he comes to the home, and we were blown away. Joshua sat at the keyboard, and he started teaching him. And Joshua has a photographic memory, and I think most kids on the spectrum do.
Yeah.
And started playing with and learning the keyboard and learning the notes. And so now he's been doing it for about 2 months now, and that has really helped. That has really helped him regulate himself as well.
So music is just
Music
really
is his,
his thing.
Yes, music is his regulation thing, and also his happy place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mizpah, I have written a book. It's called
Yes.
The Table of Life.
Yes,
You saw the book at the school.
I did.
Okay, so the premise of the book is to teach the reader how to build their own table, one dish at a time, using all of the ingredients of their life. So when you think about your life and the dishes on your table, what is one ingredient that is necessary to be in each and every one of your dishes so that you are showing up in the world as Mizpah?
Gosh, there's so many ingredients, but in my life, because I am so passionate about giving back and helping others, especially in our community, just compassion.
Compassion.
That's one of the ingredients that have to be in there. Patience. It takes a lot of patience to be able to raise our loved ones on the spectrum, and but also to just love. I can't imagine not having love as a primary ingredient. Gosh, self-care should be one of them. Understanding. Gosh, and also it's really interesting when I think about my career path and some of the choices that I made. I feel like sacrifice has to be one of the ingredients in there as well. And you have to, but that sacrifice comes from a place of deep love.
Yes.
It has to. Yeah. And I love your book. And I love the platform that you're providing for us, especially as women.
Yes.
Especially as women, just lifting each other up, and supporting each other, but also being able to lean on each other. That's a gift. That's a gift that I feel we as women owe it to ourselves, but to also our sisters.
Yes.
Pay it forward. And my father used to tell me all the time, because I was always up under him. I was exceptionally close to both him and my mother, and we have come from a very loving family. And but everywhere I went with Dad, he always had his hand extended out. And I remember as a little girl in the car one time, when he came back to the car, he had gotten out of the car and just went into the community, and he was always giving. And I said, Daddy, why are you always with your hand out? And he said, it's never to receive, my daughter. It's always to give. And he said, because God's going to take care of me. God's always going to give to me. But he has us here to give to others. And I'm a PK. So and that became a part of my DNA.
Yes.
It's like, I don't worry about myself and my needs, because God's going to meet them.
He's got us.
He's going to meet them.
That's the word. He supplies our need according to his riches and glory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my footsteps were ordered.
Yes.
I didn't know it was going to be
yes.
on a journey like this with Joshua. I'm going to tell you one other quick story, just because it's so spiritual. I went home to visit This is after I had moved to the States, and I went home to visit and my dad's church and everything. I went to church that Sunday, and I was only like 17 years old at the time. And Tommy, this experience, when I tell you it, is mind-boggling. So after church, I'm walking out of church with mommy and my siblings and everything. And my older cousin comes up to me and she goes, "Mizpah, it's so good to see you." And, and she goes, "Honey, I'm moved to tell you something." And I said, "What's that?" And she goes, "When you get married, your firstborn's going to be a boy and you are to name him Joshua." And so I looked at her and I was like, in my head, I'm like, do. I'm so far from being married. I'm only 17 years old. I'm not even thinking about marriage, let alone kids, right? And she's telling me when I get married, not if, but when I get married and my firstborn. And so I was like, "Thank you. Okay, thank you, cuz."
At 17?
And she goes, "I'm serious, And I said, "Okay, cuz." Left it as that, right? Fast forward, I get married. My husband and I, we had the wedding in the Bahamas. I went home to the Bahamas. I wanted to get married in my dad's church. I was the last of the 9 of us to get married.
Oh.
And so it was a big deal. And then I get pregnant with our firstborn. We didn't want to know the sex or the gender. So we wanted to wait until I delivered. And so Carrie is sitting at the table and he's like, "Babe," he said, if we have a boy, can I name him Carrie?" And I said, "No." So he said, "Okay, can I name him with a K?" And I said, "Okay." I said, "That's going to be your K Junior, right? If it's a boy." And he said, "Yes." And I said, "And if it's a girl?" And then he came in with a beautiful name, Cassia. And then, so that was that. And then, so we named him Caston if it was going to be a boy. And so one day we're driving, I had a craving and I wanted something. We're driving and he said, "Hey," he said, we never thought of a middle name if it's a boy or a girl. So if it's a girl, what's the middle name?" And I said, "Mizpah." And he said, "Wait, how could you get," so, the daughter could get your name, but the son. And I said, he said, "What would he be if it's a boy? What would be his middle name?" I said, "Joshua." It just came out of my mouth. I said, "Joshua." And he said, "I like that. Okay, let's go with that." And so he's born, and we were calling him Casted. And then one day, something came over me in the shower, and I knew the Lord was speaking to me.
Yeah.
I knew the Lord was speaking to me, and he said, "This is your Joshua. You are to call him Joshua." Fast forward, Joshua. So we call him Joshua because Joshua broke down the walls of Jericho.
Yes.
This Joshua is helping us break down the walls of autism.
Yeah.
And the foundation was named after
In the songs.
And
the singing.
Yes.
Walking around the wall praising.
Toby, I didn't think of it that way. Oh my God.
Wow.
No, God. He always puts people on my path to deliver,
Yes.
to deliver to me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, for sharing that. And thank you for this moment and for giving me this platform.
Absolutely.
A blessing.
Absolutely. I am so honored to have you here today. And
Thank you.
you have a lot of wonderful things you're doing. Where can people find more information about what you're doing with Joshua's Gift?
Joshua'sGift.org. Let's go to the website. Anyone that wants to volunteer, anyone that wants to donate, go to Joshua'sGift.org. And any families that want to get involved with what we're doing, we do so much give back to our parents and our loved ones and to the families. Just go to Joshua'sGift.org. Follow us on Facebook to see what we're doing, and feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mizpah, for being here, and a pleasure coming to stay a while with me.
You
always have a seat at my table.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
I hope you felt the love and connection in today's conversation. Every woman you heard from has faced the impossible and emerged stronger. This is your personal invitation to stay a while longer at TommyV.com. That's TOMMIV.com for more inspiration for your mind, body, and soul. And let's not forget your belly. You're always welcome at my table. Please be sure to subscribe, make yourself at home, and stay a while.